Hello, Jason here. I'm going to do another book review today. And we're talking about Sunglasses After Dark by Nancy A. Collins. This book was great. I really liked this book. I can't wait to read more. This is the first book in a series. And I think there's like 4, maybe 5 books in the series. But yeah, this book, this was her first published novel, and it is awesome. It won the Bram Stoker Award for horror literature stuff. And yeah, it was really good. I went to this bookstore. It's down the street from me. It's called Dream Haven, and it's in Minneapolis. And awesome bookstore. If you live around here in South Minneapolis, you should definitely go over there because they have a lot of really cool, like genre fiction type stuff, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and like tons of vintage stuff, old school books, just like paperbacks and crazy stuff. They also do a lot of comic book stuff, and they have a lot of signed. It's just an awesome bookstore. But anyway, every time I go there, I usually find 2 or 3 books for cheap, like $5 each, and this was one that I found on the last time that I went over there, and I actually got this one and a couple of her other novels. The second book in this series is called In the Blood, and I'll definitely read that here pretty soon. And then she had another novel in between those two called Tempter. I'm not really sure. I think it's a vampire novel as well, but yeah. So anyway, picked this up. I just thought it looked really cool and fun, and like I thought it was just from the cover and like all the little blurbs on it. I thought it was going to be a lot more like erotic, like a sexy vampire book, and it wasn't really. I mean, kind of, I guess. She's a sexy vampire, the main character, but she's not sexualized really in any way. Yeah, it's more just super violent and bloody and awesome, and the main character is just so badass. You just like, halfway through the book, you're just like, yeah, Sonja, you're awesome. I love that character. She's just badass and just doesn't mess around. She just kills people when they need it, and it's awesome. But anyway, let's talk about what I liked. I loved the work. Like, this book is not very long. It's like 250 pages. But there's no bloat in it at all. The pacing is amazing. Every single sentence is like gives you more information about what's going on and about the world and about the characters. And so you just want to keep going. You just want to know what's going to happen next. And like she creates this really like interesting world where there's this like underground, like secret community of vampires and werewolves and ogres and like all these different creatures that pretend to be human. She calls them pretenders, because that's what they do. They pretend to be human, they blend into society, and then that's how they like get their human prey. A lot of them are like prostitutes or drug dealers, or a lot of them are like homeless people, or bouncers at clubs, or whatever, like just like sort of like seedy underbelly type people that can like blend into society, and people don't really pay attention to them, and if some of them go missing, whatever. And yeah, it's like that's how this whole like network of vampires and stuff like works and operates. Really cool. And this is like global. Like these people are all over the place, just hiding in plain sight, right in front of the people that they're preying upon. So that was really cool. The main character, Sonja Blue, she's awesome. Like, this is half like revenge kind of tale and half origin story. It's kind of split up, like where you have a section of the book that's present day and whatever, and then it goes back and talks about her origin story and how she got to where she was, and then it goes back to present day. set in the 90s or 80s or whatever. It doesn't matter. The setting doesn't really matter. Yeah, but so basically, we'll talk about her origin. Let's go back to the beginning. She is a young girl. Her name is Denise Thorne. She's the daughter of some rich dude, and she is out on the town one night, like clubbing it up, and some guy, his name's Martin, I think, picks her up, and whatever. He's a vampire. He bites her. He sexualizes her, and then, well, it's not. He rapes her. It's not consensual. He doesn't. Yeah. And then he dumps her into the gutter to die and drives off. And yeah, so some random guy, I don't know, finds her and takes her to a hospital, and they save her life. They give her blood transfusion, blah blah blah, and like she doesn't actually die. So she's a vampire, but she's not undead, because that's the thing. So the way it works is like, vampire bites you, the saliva or whatever like poisons you and kills you, and then allows like a spirit or a vampire demon spirit to possess your dead body, and it takes over your brain as a vessel for this spirit, and then you're dead, but like you're reanimated or whatever. And depending on how long you've been dead and how much your brain has like been damaged or whatever, some of these people come back and they're like basically zombies. They're vampires, but they're basically zombies. They just wander around aimlessly and just like kill indiscriminately. And those are the ones that are like homeless people that are they can't do anything functional in society. But because Sonja didn't die, or Denise rather, didn't die, her like soul, her personality or whatever is still in there. And so she, so there's two. There's her, this Sonja Blue character, and then the other is what she calls it. And they're always kind of like, the internal monologue in her brain is always kind of like back and forth between these two. And the other is like the vampire that's always just like, give me blood, give me blood. And then Sonja's the human one that's like, hold on, let's just like, restraint. She wants to be restrained. And so that, it's just, the dynamic there is really cool. And yeah, it reminded me of the movie Blade, with Wesley Snipes. And because he's kind of similar. He's a vampire hunter who's kind of half vampire, whatever. And I think in that he gets vampirized or whatever, because his mom is pregnant when she gets bit, and then gives birth to him, and that contaminates his blood or whatever. But it's similar. It's like they're not full vampires, but they are. They have like the hunger, but they're able to control it a little better. And they have some advantages and disadvantages because of that. But no, she's an awesome character. And after that, she becomes a prostitute, and that's actually where she gets the name Sonja Blue. It's her like prostitute name. So she spends a few years doing that in Europe or whatever, honing her abilities. But most of the pretenders can like read minds, and some of them can like control people with their minds, like mind control type stuff. So yeah, it's kind of that whole thing. Eventually she meets up with this guy who helps her like figure out, teaches her more about like the underground world, the pretenders, and everything that's going on, because she wants to find and track down Martin. And there's a whole hierarchy. There's like noble vampires that have like the power, and then there's like lesser vampires and stuff like that. He's a noble, and so she wants to track him down and kill him. That does not happen in this book. I assume that's maybe like an overarching story for like the rest of the series, or maybe that'll come into play later. But that's just her like main motivation that does not get fulfilled in this. There's other antagonists though. Her dad is whatever Thorne, I can't remember his first name. He thought she was like her parents thought she was dead. You know, she didn't come home one night and they just never heard from her again, and they all assumed that she was dead. When he finds out that she's not, that she's actually a vampire, he hires this crazy, I don't know, she's a pretender, but she's like a televangelist, and she uses her powers to like heal people, but she doesn't really. It's all an illusion, it's all an act, to get people to give her money and stuff. But her name's Catherine Wheel, and she's kind of the main bad guy in this. But anyway, her dad, Denise's dad, pays her to have her institutionalized and put into like a mental institution for like violent criminals. Anyway, she eventually breaks out, and then it's a lot about, like, the rest of the story is kind of about her tracking down this Catherine Wheel and confronting her and killing her. And the last, like, showdown at the mansion, at the Wheel Mansion, is awesome. It's, like, it's just so good, and, like, there's all these times when, like, Sonja's, like, up against a corner, and you're like, oh shit, she's gonna like something bad's gonna happen, and she just snaps off and just like lets the other loose, and he just fucking just dominates. It's just so awesome when she just like lets loose and doesn't like restrain herself. What she does is just crazy, and then yeah, so awesome book. I highly recommend it. If you can find yourself a copy, I mean, you can probably find one on like thrift books for like $5 or something. But yeah, it was a great book, and I can't wait to read more from this author. I can't wait to read more in the series. If you've read this book, or if you've read any of the other books in the series, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. You can leave a comment, and I usually read those and we'll respond to them. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say about this book. Highly recommend it. Super, super fun, violent vampire novel. So, Sunglasses After Dark, pick it up, and let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. I'm going to continue to do more book reviews of, various things. Been trying to read a lot more fantasy, trying to read more science fiction, but also this vintage horror stuff. This is the stuff that I love. Like, it's the most fun for me to read. So I'll definitely do a lot of that stuff too. And it's also there's not much discussion around these. Like, I found one other, like, YouTube book review, of this book, and no one talks about this stuff. So I'd like to, kind of open up that conversation piece for books like this, because I love this stuff, and I know there's a lot of people out there who like reading this stuff too. So anyway, like and subscribe, leave a comment, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.